So let me get to the point of this particular video, which is about population pyramids. We're going to be using these to try to understand populations throughout the world. And a population pyramid tells us a couple of things. In this case, we don't have like a year or a 10-year time span where these things, these two different population pyramids represent maybe a particular decade in a particular place. So typically population pyramids tell you we're talking about this particular country, this particular region, and it is this particular 10-year period, usually 10-year periods, because that's when we get our census data. A lot of times population statistics are shared every 10 years in something in the United States, which is a constitutional function of government to conduct the census and get population information that way. But also around the world, other governments collect data and share it about their population composition too. So in a population pyramid, you will see how many males versus how many females, and you'll see males represented on the left and females represented on the right, and it's the total number in the population. So these are going to be, it'll indicate whether we're talking about thousands, whether we're talking about millions. In this case, it would be millions or tens of millions in some cases, all the way up to 85 and above. And so you have age, which runs up and down, and you have the numbers of males and females that run side to side. And you compare the females to males, you compare the age groups to each other. And so what does this tell me? What we can get or glean, there's the word that I need, what we can glean from these population pyramids is that it takes, I hear my friend Sue talking. Hey Sue, I'm making a video. I'll talk to you in a second. So from these population pyramids that you're looking at here, you can look, this is a very young kind of society with lots of babies being born. The blue color is ages 0 to 14. So each of the bars is that 5-year span of life. So 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14. And then from ages 15 to 44, it's represented by this color. And these are the countries that it represents. It doesn't necessarily tell us what time frame in these particular population pyramids. But when we look at this, we can see from the graphic representation that this society, these 3 examples of societies, are growing really, really quickly. There's a ton of babies being born, and something around middle age is really increasing the death rate so that you have very few people who survive up to these, 45 to 85 years plus. You have a lot of folks gone, before even the 85-year-old range. Then we have slow growth areas like the United States. We have babies in the United States, but we aren't having them nearly as quickly as some of these other places, like these examples in Africa or in Saudi Arabia, for instance. So we have a slow growth population which will sustain itself for a very long time with workers and with consumers and with other kinds of characteristics that we look for in a healthy population. Zero growth populations are not necessarily in danger of extinction. They just mean that the birth rate and the death rate are roughly equal. And so you can see that males and females, the lines on either side of the population pyramid, it's like not really a pyramid anymore, is it? It's kind of like, almost straight up and down until the upper age groups kind of converge at the beginning. Anyway, these are these represent zero growth population places, and these countries that are listed here, Denmark, Austria, and Italy, are examples here. But one of the things that you see throughout the world, and these 3 countries that are listed in the negative growth population pyramid example, these countries are like the number of countries that are becoming negative growth countries are increasing. This would mean that at a particular time, the population, the citizens or the residents of that area were having fewer babies than there were people dying, right? So there were lots of babies here, and those people had fewer and fewer babies as they as they approached childbearing years. And so now there's a negative growth because these people are getting older and dying off, and there will be fewer and fewer people to replace them in the future. And so we can learn those types. That's a key thing that we can use a population pyramid to address, even though it seems to only be showing us two characteristics of demography, age and sex category. It gives us a lot more information than meets the eye before we learn how to really interpret these things. Okay, so this last picture that I want to show you, let me move it over here. This last group of population pyramids is like world population projections. So in 2020, you can see that if this is the world population projection, this many females compared to this many males, you can see the the millions of people down here, hundreds of millions of people down here, and the age groups, of course, the same category of age from 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14. So those 5-year spans. So in 2020, here's the expectation, 2030, 2040, 2050. What's happening to, especially the base of the pyramid here, is you see an expanding population with these amounts of people expected by the year 2070. In the world. So even though we have negative growth countries individually, how much does that contribute to the overall world population? That needs more research before we can actually make a conclusion about that particular question.